All right, and we're recording. So, Kim, we're excited to have you here with our elite mastermind group. So, of course, you know that we're doing this awesome mastermind and we're working together with some great leaders, and we're just so excited to have you. And you're kind of like the kickoff, right? You're kicking everything off. And so, this is like a 12-month long elite mastermind where we're just helping our coaches to set realistic goals and benchmarks and guide them in the right direction, and providing everybody with resources that we feel are the most valuable at not only getting you to elite and premier, but also helping you build like a really solid business that is going to have longevity and provide you with that financial return that you're looking for too. So as we kick things off today, we have Cim Carver here, and I'm going to let him take it over, and I'm just going to mute myself, and you can.
Okay. And I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint here to walk things through, Mel. So I'll probably have you make sure that I can do it so I can go full screen. But everybody, I am super honored and excited to be here. And congratulations for being in here. This is it's kind of a cool group. When they told me what was going on and they asked me to come, I thought, you know, what an honor to be a part of what you guys are doing, and it's fun to kind of be at the very beginning of it. You know, you've got Team Cup coming up this month. You guys are making some great decisions as business owners, as entrepreneurs, that will really pay big dividends for you. And so my goal today, just to be honest with you, is to maybe help you be more effective at creating a game plan for yourself to follow, to maybe get your head in the right space if it's not there quite yet, and maybe even give you some, you know, permission to believe a little bit stronger. And hopefully by the time that we're done here, that goal guide, everything that we've kind of talked about will now make sense to you from a roadmap standpoint, and that you can then use that to reverse engineer yourself into a daily game plan for yourself that will help you lead to elite, and that you'll know how to keep track of that. So I'm going to try to bring up my PowerPoint here, Mel. Let me see if I can do this. Hold on. Okay. So let me see if I can go. I don't want this. Get out of the way. Get that out of the way. And if I go full screen, can you see that right, Mel? Is that okay? Okay, awesome. All right. So this right here, this is a presentation that I actually gave in earlier this year, actually late last year, while I was down in doing a training in Miami. And Christina asked me to kind of share it with you guys. Hopefully this will be something that, again, the goal is to help you not just know what elite is, but know how to apply elite. So we'll kind of jump right into it. One of the things when I'm talking with coaches about elite, one of the first things that I like to address, honestly, is just giving themselves permission to believe that it's possible. Now, you guys are a little bit ahead of the game, because if you're here, you've already done that. But I still want to encourage you to maybe think about a couple things right here. I want you to open your mind to really embracing and starting to believe that it's possible, and that not only is possible, but it's likely, if you apply yourself, that you can reach elite. And that means for a lot of you, you're going to have to give yourself permission to let go of some things, to let go of some negative thinking, let go of some maybe some self-sabotaging beliefs that you've grown comfortable with. Let go of maybe some of the baggage and things that you've kind of brought in, and that right now, even right now, you're kind of afraid that they're going to undermine you, or you kind of feel them. Just you gotta let that go. You got to open your mind to it. You have to give yourself permission to believe, okay, to really honestly say, this is something that I can do. And a lot of you I know are there, but there's some of you on here I can promise that are still aren't quite there yet. In the process of that, you've got to give yourself permission to be imperfect. Whenever we're doing big things, pushing ourselves, doing new things, you're not going to be perfect in it. And you've got to make the decision right now that when I face those moments, when I made mistakes, or when I wasn't perfect, or that those are part of the process. And it's not an indictment on me as a person. It's not an indictment on my skill as a coach, but I can be imperfect because that's how I learn. Give yourself permission to see the power in the choices that you make. One of the things that I talk a lot about with the coaches that I work with is you have to really get to the point, to the mindset as a business owner, where you feel like what shapes your life most are the choices that you make. That it's not that things happen to you and you just react to them, but really that you are the one that steers your ship. And so part of that is when you see that power of your choices, that you then start owning those choices. And when you go after goals, big goals that will push you, you have to really embrace the fact of the power that your choices make to shape your life, and embrace what that power really is. You have to give yourself permission to not feel cornered by life. There's no room for kind of playing the entitlement or the victimization piece here. You're going to have to go for it. You're not cornered. You're not trapped. You're the one that's creating this future for yourself. And as you go through this, especially with elite, there's going to be things that are going to be out of your control. People's decisions are going to be out of your control. And again, you have to give yourself permission right now to stop owning the choices that other people make. The choices that they make, those are their choices, not on you. And so you can't let those choices, if they don't go the way that you hope, detract or slow you down. You have to give yourself permission, honestly, to see an incredibly bright future for yourself. Stephen R. Covey talks about in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that things are created twice, right? That they're first created in our minds, and that's where they're created first, and then before they're created in reality. And so the future you see for yourself, are you seeing that clear enough and bright enough and vibrant enough that you can then work towards that and create that reality, okay? That vision you have for yourself. And you got to give yourself permission to have joy. That doesn't mean every single day your business is going to be a party and every single day you're going to love it, okay? Some days it's going to challenge you and it's going to push you. But if you have purpose behind it, if you have a purpose behind it for yourself, for your family, for other people, then there's always going to be joy in it, especially when you focus that on helping people, in my opinion. You have to also give yourself now permission to stop hedging. Now, what I mean by hedging is we say, oh, and even if the word you're saying is, oh, I'm going for it, I'm going to do it. But in your mind, you're kind of like, oh, well, I'm going to kind of try, but I'm also kind of reserving part of that. Hedging is something we do that sometimes we grow up learning how to do to kind of protect ourselves. Because that way, if we don't make it, oh boy, well, I wasn't all the way committed to it, so the sting of not reaching it doesn't hurt as bad. But when you're going after a big goal like elite, man, you can't hedge. You have to say, look, I'm all in on this, and I'm going to put all I've got, all I can, whatever time I've set aside to it, whatever plan I'm going to execute on, I'm going to believe in it, and I'm going to go after it. I'm not going to hedge. I'm not going to kind of go 80% or 60% or 70%, so that in some part of my mind, if I don't make it, I can go, well, I didn't really fail that bad because I didn't really think I could do it anyway. Don't hedge. Don't hedge. Go all in. Give yourself permission to be courageous. Okay, to push yourself, to challenge yourself, and to know that that's where the learning is. And then give yourself permission at the end to go for it, you guys. To go for it. Man, what an incredible environment, first of all, this is. How awesome is it to have all these amazing top coaches helping you guys out doing this? And so why not? Go for it. What have you got to lose? Okay? You've got a lot of opportunity, a lot of growth to gain, and so make a commitment that between now, the beginning of this group, all the way to December 31st, no matter what happens, that you are going to go for it all in every single day. Now, my assumptions as I'm talking to this group is that you're here because you're serious about your coaching business. I think that's an assumption. The reason I'm getting clear is because I'm going to talk to you guys different than I probably would maybe in a bigger group setting when I wasn't sure who was in the room. But I'm assuming you're serious about your coaching business and that you're interested in moving or have already moved beyond a hobby coach level activity. So I can kind of talk to you then at a higher, a little more detailed strategic level, and you're not going to check out on me. Okay, so that's kind of my challenge to you right now, is that you're going to stay with me in this because we're serious about what we're talking about here. I'm also assuming that you're willing to do the work. Okay, and that when we talk through what the work is, while you might think, boy, that's going to be challenging, you're committed to doing whatever that looks like for yourself. And finally, that you're also ready to adopt more of a CEO mindset, really from the standpoint of owning your numbers. And I'm going to push you and I'm going to challenge you today that you have to start getting better about owning those numbers that you do or that you engage in, from the plans you execute on, from learning and finding out how you measure these things. All of those things, guys, elite really is about sustained effort, sustained purposeful effort throughout the whole entire year. And for you to really sustain that, to benchmark that, you have to be able to own those numbers. And you'll find as you continue to grow in your business and it gets larger and larger, that learning how to own your numbers, knowing where I'm at right now, where I'm trending to, what things are happening, the results that I'm getting or not getting, that's a key thing for you to develop to be able to make the right decisions for your business. All right, so those are my assumptions. So as we jump into this now, if we were in a group setting and in a live setting, I would say, okay, when as a coach, when you hear elite, what comes to mind? And typically when I ask this question, there's this pause in the room because everyone's they're usually unsure how to answer it. And then they will start saying things like, it's a top program for coaches. It's recognition. It's hard, or it's complicated, or you'll hear things like, it's something that they'll throw out their name of their upline or their team or something like that. The important thing for me is that that's a real typo. What do you think? Should we say think? The important thing for me is that wherever your preconceived notions of elite coming in right now is at this moment, I want you to think elite is me. I am an elite coach. I am an elite coach, and now I'm just going to get the numbers and the business in place to be able to prove that I am an elite coach. Now, one of the things, there are sometimes people feel like the elite program is just kind of this random thing that the company put together, and that was just something that we just kind of have, and that's, why do we pay so much attention to it? Okay, so that's the purpose of this training today, is to kind of talk you through what that is, how it benefits you, exactly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And again, the challenge here is to see yourself as an elite coach. And I know when I ask a lot of you, what do you think when you hear elite? This is kind of what comes to mind. You think about all the numbers and all the stuff that comes on. And my goal here today is to break it down enough that as the CEO of your business, you can really start to own those numbers. Okay. Now, does that mean, it might not challenge you? No, of course it is. Anytime you do something for the first time, like trying to understand a lead or trying to understand how it's calculated, it's going to feel very hard and intimidating because it's new. But I promise you guys, a lot less skilled people, a lot less skilled coaches have become elite, have learned elite, and that means you can too. All right. So just bear with me if this is how you're feeling. So, I'm going to skip this slide real quick, but there's a lot of really cool things about being elite. Okay. So if you want to be elite, look at all that stuff that comes through. Okay. 2000 elite coach. I mean, all these different pieces that come along. I know everyone just started to see the elite jackets and the gifts and the things that were coming on. Honestly, I think the biggest one is probably that first one, where that being able to say, hey, look, we are an elite team. There's something that just really changes on a team when they can start saying that, when they can talk about that. But there's a lot of really cool benefits and perks to being an elite coach. A lot of fun prizes and things that you get as well. So we go through this. So here's what I want you to do. If you have a blank piece of paper, okay, I know that you've got your goal guide out, which is great, but if you've got a blank piece of paper, really there are three things I want you to write real quick on the paper, okay? Why does elite matter to me? I want you to know how. Then put a space where you're going to say, okay, how am I going to plan for it? And we'll get to that at the end of the training. And then the third one are, what are the next steps for me? Like, what does that look like? How do I actually plan this in place? So that's what, as we go through this today, these three keys to your elite game planner is knowing why it matters, know how to do it, and know what my next steps are so I can get started. And again, a lot of this will be facilitated greatly by this group. Okay, now with that whole setup here, we're gonna get into this. Let's talk like business owners for just a minute, okay? So if you can, just clear your mind, put aside any elite numbers, any of that kind of stuff right now, and I just want to talk to you from a business owner to a business owner perspective. Here, and I'm going to do that using kind of a hypothetical situation, all right? So here's me, and this was a training I actually did for the Latino market, so I called it Gringo Incorporated, okay, because I was the gringo. And let's say that I've got a business, and my business sells this box, all right? And this is just like, it's a good little business for me. It's got, it's a monthly consumable product. This box is, it delivers great results for people. It's got real proven demand for it. It's something where, in other words, what I'm trying to say is we don't have to question if the box works or not, all right? And so we just know that it functions, that there's value to it. Now, when I'm looking at then my core business activities at Gringo Inc., there really are, everything boils down into three main activities for my business: acquisition, retention, and expansion. And these are three business principles that no matter what business you can think of, I can promise you it distills down into these three buckets: acquisition, retention, and expansion. So as I look at my business then, right, I have to say, okay, well, what are these activities for me? What do they look like at Gringo Inc.? Okay, well, first I have to have an acquisition strategy. An acquisition strategy with retention, they kind of go hand in hand with each other, because I don't want them falling off as quick as they come in the door here at Gringo Inc. I want them to have a good experience with the box and keep using it. And really that becomes kind of my core business. That's my model, is that really figuring out how to nail what that acquisition strategy is and retention strategy for the box. So for example, in this case, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to use regular advertisements to increase brand awareness of the box. I'm going to use value ads on a website and social media to engage people. I'm going to offer experience opportunities like sample programs or little tidbits where they get a chance to kind of check out the elements of the box and understand what it is. I'm going to make sure each customer's experience with the box is amazing, right? That they're using it right, that they're seeing and the beliefs in there. I want to make sure I'm providing a really good high level of customer service, that people really understand that at Gringo Inc. at least, I want them to really, love the box, have a good experience with the box, that it fills their needs. And so it's really a people before profits element, which I know is really important to my customers. And I want to figure out a way to keep my customers in my ecosystem of my business, right? So I have ways of engaging them. So I'm gonna do monthly newsletters, or I'm gonna do loyalty programs, or something where it kind of keeps them around my business. So maybe they don't come every single month to buy the box, but boy, they're gonna come maybe it's once a quarter, and they're gonna slowly build into more consistent purchasing from Gringo Inc. because I keep them in my ecosystem and I can offer them little tidbits and pieces of value. And then when I have people that come in, I want to communicate when they get the box. I want them to know what to do with it. I want them to know what the next steps are. I want them to understand why they should keep using this box. So for me, this acquisition strategy, this is the core of my business. This is what I do. And the more that I do this is what generates the revenue model for my business. This is really at its core. So if you're thinking like a CEO now, and I know that it's hard for you not to apply this to your business, and I do that same thing, and there's obviously a reason why I'm setting it up this way. But let's just try to think about it, as if it weren't your Beachbody business for just a second. Or we're thinking about Gringo Inc. And if this is my core business model, one of the things I have to do as a business owner is own the numbers for this, right? So what would be some good measurements to look at to see if my strategy on acquiring and retaining customers was working for me? Okay, well, just think about that logically. What would it be? Well, if I want to be able to measure my ability to acquire and retain customers, how would I measure that? Well, I know what some of you are thinking. We could do things like measure the number of new customers that are coming in each month, measure how many active customers or people that are purchasing from me are coming in each month. That would be a couple good ways to do that. And there's a few others, but that's the example, okay? So that's acquisition and retention, right? Now we'll get into expansion. Now, expansion tends to be where a lot of us focus our time and energy. It's like, that's the exciting part. That's where we feel like, that's where the business can really start to scale, okay? But again, the important thing is it's built still on that acquisition and retention engine, that core element of the business. That's what makes the expansion possible. So at Gringo Inc., one of the areas, my part one, if you will, on expanding my business is really to focus on how can I expand sales in my own store. Okay, so I've got my own Gringo Inc. store right now. We're a one-store company, right? And how can I get more more customers in my own business? So I look at ways that I can scale my acquisition retention strategy. How can I do that better? All these different pieces I look, but at the end of the day, that's what I want to do is grow my own store, be able to have the ability to grow sales in my own store. Now, if you were me at Gringo Inc., what would be a good measurement to look at to see if I'm being successful in expanding the sales of my own store? Okay, so how would I see that? What would I look at that? Well, I know what some of you are thinking. Well, I would look at the number of boxes sold each month, and I would probably look at my totally monthly and yearly revenue, okay, for my store, right? And if that's growing, if I'm selling more boxes, then I'm expanding the sales of my store. The volume of my sales is going up. And then I can look at my total revenue, right, for that number as well, okay? All right, so one of the things I realized, though, very quick at Gringo Inc. is that if it's just my store, I'm going to start running into some real bottlenecks, which is time. There's only 24 hours in a day. I'm only one person running one store. And so really there's time. And then geography. Well, if my store is located right here, I can't really get customers that are maybe farther away from me that aren't within my network, if you will, that are in my geographic area. I have a hard time reaching those people, right? And they don't maybe have easy access or the ability to get into my Gringo Inc. store to buy that box. And then the third one I'm realizing is now I'm also the bottleneck because again, I only have 24 hours a day. I'm one person and there's only so much that I can do in a given time. So that now sets me into this idea of saying, okay, well, how can I continue to expand? Well, I'm going to look at opening up other stores, right? I want to figure out a way to open up other stores, allows me to get into different geographic areas, allows other people to be doing activities at the same time, and that takes me being the bottleneck out of the equation. But how would I do this? Well, at Gringo Inc., one of the things I know is that I've got some really amazing loyal customers who come in and they love the box. They're there every single day. They're passionate about it. They're telling their friends about it. People are coming in all the time and they're getting the box. So I'm going to go to these people first. And I'm going to say, look, you understand the value of the box. You know how awesome this is. You know it, you love it, you believe in it, you've experienced it. And so if you're open to it, I'm looking, I want to open more stores. I want to expand, and I think that this will be a great opportunity for you to also do that by letting me help you open your store. Okay, you guys can see where I'm going with this. So that now, what do I do when they agree to that? Is I just teach them that core acquisition and retention strategy. Here's the business model, the acquisition and retention strategy. I'm going to show you how to do it. Then I'm going to help you do it to get your store started. And then after you've seen me do it, after you've done that, then you'll just do it. And you'll follow the same model that I did of expanding your own stores, et cetera, et cetera. All right. And so this takes me to the second part of my Gringo Week expansion strategy, right? Where I provide training and support, connection to these people who are now opening their own Gringo Inc. stores. And as part of that, I get a percentage of their store sales. Now you guys can see where I'm going with this. The funny thing is, you guys, is sometimes when we talk about network marketing, we start to feel like it's this strange business model, but it's really not, you guys. It's a traditional business model that's taken down and put into the hands of individuals, as you can see right here, because this is a very common business model. It's not one I just made up, right? So this is Gringo Inc. strategy part number 2. Now, again, if I'm the CEO and I've got to own my numbers and I want to know, is this being successful? If this expansion strategy, what am I going to look at? Well, I'm going to look at, well, what are the number of boxes being sold in each one of those other stores? Those people that I've helped, are they able to do that acquisition or retention strategy? Are they selling more boxes, right? How many new customers then are they getting in every single month? Is it just 3 customers buying all those boxes? Or do they have 100 customers each buying, 1 or 2 boxes, which is a little bit more sustainable? Those are the things that I would want to measure, all right? And I know you guys are like, how long is it going to take? How far is it going to take this analogy? Just a few more steps, and then I promise we'll get into the other parts. So now I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, okay, that's awesome. I've got these customers, and they're starting their own stores, and I'm going, you know what? I think we're ready to really kind of accelerate this, because what's happening now is as my new store owners are starting to be successful, they're coming to me and saying, hey, look, we've got some great customers of our own, and boy, I think that they could start their own stores, and could we do what you did with us and expand our own businesses that way? And so that takes me into step 3 now, which is then I help those store owners do what I did, which is helping their people then start their own stores. And again, that training and support and connection goes one way. And then as compensation for that, I get a percentage override of their store sales, okay? You guys can see how that works right here. And pretty soon my business starts to look like my own store, as well as several other stores that are connected to Gringo Inc. throughout the country and throughout the world eventually, that all are related to me based upon this model that I put in place as far as expansion goes. Okay, well, that was a fun little story, okay? And as I look at all that, as I look at my main business, what were the things I would look at? Well, honestly, when it comes to that level, you really just start looking at, there's the individual stores, which we've already identified, but now it tries to be like just the total revenue. What's the total revenue of my business? How is that looking for all those stores combined? Okay, so now with that little analogy of Gringo Inc. in your mind, I hope what you start to understand, because I know a lot of you are connecting this, where I'm going with this with your Beachbody business, is that the network marketing business model is a traditional business model that's put in the hands of individuals, okay? And so what that should also tell you then is that some of the same, I guess, business principles around running an effective business, like owning your numbers and those things, don't change as well. You don't, and they're not things you have to create or invent. All right. And so that's now we can start pivoting into elite. Okay. I know when we start talking about the word strategy, or what's your strategy, for some of you on here, that's a very intimidating word. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. What is a strategy? So what I want you to do is just think about it in terms of this. Okay. How are you going to acquire people, customers? How are you going to retain them? And then how are you going to expand your business? Those 3 buckets, just like I walked you through at Gringo Inc. All right. And then when you look at those, you have to have measurements that you can use to own those numbers to see those results. And then you have to have the courage, the discipline, and the emotional maturity as a CEO to own those numbers, okay, to deal with what those are and to celebrate when they're going up, to manage them when they're not going where you want them to go, and understand that that's just kind of part of the ride, okay? That's what the elite program is all about. The elite program gives you the framework for measuring your business in those key areas, those 3 key areas: acquisition, retention, and expansion. And setting milestone goals according to the elite program will help you keep focused on the things that result in a healthy and stable business. That's the reason why the company has the program. Because we know that coaches come to us and they want stable, residual income producing businesses for themselves when they get at the stage that you're at right now. But a lot of them, they're kind of like, okay, what's the strategy? What should I do? Look, if you follow the guidelines if you follow the elite program, it will literally force you to focus on the activities that will result in that healthy, stable, sustainable business for yourself. Okay. And so you don't have to be some kind of a business expert to be able to do it. Just follow the elite program. So let's talk about the elite program. In 2017, this year, there are the requirements are basically the same, right? You need to be a 5-star diamond. You need to have 2 diamonds, or 2 new diamonds, or 2, let me say it this way. You have to have 2 personally sponsored people or coaches who hit diamond for the first time this year. And then you have to have a total of 135 elite points, which comes from a balance of 4 categories I'll talk about in just a moment. The little asterisk there. You have to make sure that that you're a 5-star and that those 2 diamonds are paid as diamond at least 1 bonus week in December. So that's the requirements. On the elite goal guide, you can see that on the example side at the very, very top. All right. Here's a couple questions that I get when it comes to this. Does it have to be a new diamond who enrolled in 2017? No. It can be a coach that you've had for 2 or 3 years with you, right? But they hit diamond for the very first time in 2017. That's what they're looking for. Does it have to be a first-time diamond? Yes. So if they hit diamond in 2016 and then fell back down to emerald or ruby or whatever it happened to be, coach, and then they got back up to 2017 to diamond, that's awesome. Congratulate them, but it won't count for elite. Do all have to be paid diamonds on the same bonus week in December? No. They just have to be, those 2 diamonds can be paid on different bonus weeks. They just have to be at 1 bonus week. Sometimes I'll also get questions like, do they have to be the same 2 diamonds? No, let's say that you've got, during the course of the year, you had, in March, you had a person hit diamond for the first time. In June, you had someone hit diamond for the first time. And then September and October, you had 2 more hit. And then the one from, March and the one from October hit. It doesn't matter which one it is. There just has to be 2 by the end of the year. So those are some common questions when I get to that. If you have any other ones, you can private message me or just ask Mel, because she'll answer it right now in the chat, okay? So really, the understanding the rank and the diamonds is a pretty, I think everyone gets that. Where I want to spend my time right now is on the elite points, because again, this is those really the business framework guidelines that we just talked about around acquisition, retention, and expansion for your business. And how we do that with the elite points is we break them down to 4 categories, okay? 4 categories of elite points. The first one is what they call elite personal customer volume. This is a new one for this year, CPV points. And I'll explain where they come from in just a second with more detail. But what I want you to think about this as we try to transition our thought process here is this really measures the acquisition, retention, and expansion of success of my personal store. Okay, that's what this measures. That Gringo Inc., my own one store that we talked about, that's what this is measuring. The second category and the third category now deal with my coaches. Okay? So the first category is my customers. Now it's my coaches or the other stores that I'm helping get started. Elite personally sponsored coach personal volume, okay, PSPV, or elite success club points. All right, and again, this measures that acquisition, retention, expansion, and success of my coaches' stores, if you will. And then the fourth category is my elite advancement team volume points, or ATV points for short. And again, I'll go into the details on all these points in this next slide here. But conceptually, I'm trying to drive home to you the reason why we have these categories and why they're important to you as a business owner, as a CEO, in building that sustainable business for yourself. Okay, so let's look at these point categories in a little bit more detail. Okay, first let's look at our elite SC points. That's it. We'll start there because that's kind of the easiest one. You'll see across the top there, we're going to go through how the points are created and how they're calculated, and then any other tidbit that we need to make sure that we cover. So for elite SC points, who creates these elite points for you? Well, they are your personally sponsored coaches who enrolled in 2016 and 2017. All right. So one of the things that I would do right now, if I were you, if you don't have this already, is I would start really keeping a track, whether it's on a Google Doc, a piece of paper, a whiteboard. Here are my coaches, my business coaches that enrolled last year and who I'm enrolling and finding this year. Okay, those are the ones that will help you generate elite SC or elite Success Club points. And how the points are calculated, it's really simple. When one of those coaches from that pool, okay, reaches Success Club, you get 1 elite point. And if you happen to also be in Success Club that month with, actually, I shouldn't even say it like that. When you are in Success Club that month, because if you're going to go after elite, Success Club is really, really a non-negotiable at this point. That 1 point doubles to 2, all right? And so, yeah, I think that makes sense. So if I have someone that comes in, if I have, let's say I have a pool of 5 coaches from last year and this year, and let's say 3 of them are in Success Club in the month of February from Team Cup, and you're also in Success Club, that is a total of 6 points that you would get from the Elite SC category. And we'll go through an example of that when we go through the goal guide in just a second here. For Elite PSPV, now, Elite PSPV looks at your newest coaches, your newest stores that you're helping open. And it really is like, okay, so are these newest stores, these newest coaches, are they having success, right? So it looks at your 2017 personally sponsored coaches. And what it does is it looks at their ability of their stores to expand and measures the personal volume that they're producing, okay, through their own purchases and through the purchases of their customers. And you get 1 point for every 500 in total PV from all those coaches. All right, so this is a little bit tricky to wrap your head around. So I'm going to say it one more time. All those 2017 coaches, at the end of the month, our computer goes through and says, okay, what are all those coaches? What's their PV? And then we add it all together from all those coaches, and then we divide it by 500. And every increment of 500 gives you 1 elite point. Now, one thing I do like to point out at this point is to remind everybody that PV for a coach is generated by their own purchases. So keeping them on Shakeology, right? Keeping them engaged in Shakeology and using other products, all those pieces, plus the purchase of their own retail or club customers as well. That also generates PV for them. So again, if you go back to our Gringo Inc. example, this is me measuring the success of my other store owners, right? Are they able to get customers and have a growing store? That's really what this measures. I hope that analogy doesn't confuse anybody. In my mind, it makes sense, but hopefully it makes sense to you. All right, now let's go to the next category, Elite CPV. Now, while the first 2 categories are measuring my coaches, the third category, the CPV category, looks at my own customers, right? And how effective I am at acquiring and retaining and keeping those customers engaged. So it looks at my customers from this year, all right? And what it is just like the previous category in that for every total, from all of those customers, every increment of 500 in PV generates 1 elite point in this category, elite CPV point for me. All right. One thing I do want to make sure I point out here, though, is that when we talk about customers, customers don't sign up other customers. So really the only way that PV is generated from a customer is from their own purchases. Does that make sense? So just remember that, right? It's really just measures how much my customers are buying from 2017. Okay. And finally, Elite ATV. This is the one that kind of looks at my overall business. It looks at the TV for my first 3 coaching levels. All right, if you will. And you get 1 point for every increase in 10,000 points in ATV from 2016 to where you end up in 2017. And I'll talk more about ATV in just a minute, okay? So now that we kind of understand a little bit more about the points, and again, if you're a little bit foggy, we're going to go through the goal guide here in just a second here, and I think that will hopefully help cement that in your mind. But when we talk about the elite points, remember that the goal is to get to at least 135 of those elite points. So one of the things that the Beachbody does to help make sure, again, the goal is to help you build the stable, sustainable business, is we kind of force you to have a balance of these points in all of these categories. Because if you just get them all in 1 or 2 categories, it's not going to result in that sustainable long-term residual income producing business you have for yourself. And so as you can see here on the screen, what that means is that that we put a maximum on the number of points they're allowed per category, right? And so for CPV, it's 25. For PSPV in the SC category, it's 50, and ATV, it's 30. And so, and the minimums just come as a byproduct of, well, if you max out 3 of the categories, then you have to at least get so many from one of the other categories, all right? And this will become important when we talk about strategies for getting to that 135 points. this is the example. This is probably the most common strategy that people follow. And this is the one that I'm going to recommend you at least modeling yourself from your game plan at this point to follow. And it's really simple. I want to max out my CPV category, my PSPV category, and my SC category. Okay. In other words, I want to make sure I get all the points that are allowed in those 3 categories. And then I'm going to look at the ATV category and just make sure that I hit at least 10 points. Okay. At least 10 points. When you add all that up, that gets you to that 135 point number. The reason why this is important is because the CPV, PSPV, and SC categories, those are a little bit easier for you to feel like you can influence and to game plan around. While ATV gets a little bit harder, and so it's better to strategize this way. And so as you fill out your goal guide, that's what I'm going to recommend that you do, is that and that's what the examples I'm going to give is going to be built on this strategy right here. If you decided in your situation it's a different method works best for you to get to 135 points, that's fine. At the end of the day, all that matters is at the end of the year, you've got 135 elite points. All right, so everyone get out your elite goal guide now. And what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to walk you through how to use this goal guide to remember all this stuff that I just told you about elite, and also at the same time get a game plan in place that will help you roadmap out what you need to do to get to elite, and then turn that into a strategy for you for your business. All right. So the goal guide's really designed to help you plan, help you track, help you set goals, help you stay accountable, and help you take these small bites each month. When you have this big, a long-term goal like elite, boy, you know, breaking it down to those small bites is really, really going to be important for you. And having that perspective of starting with the end in mind, knowing where you're going, and then how you can back up into what you want to look like today, right now. So when you look at the goal guide, look at the back, that's the blank side right now. The front side is really designed to be very instructional to help you, you know, if you didn't have me explaining it to you, you could follow up. So flip it over to the back side where everything's blank. Or maybe you thought that was the front side. Just get to the blank part. And you'll see that there are 5 sections on the goal guide. The top 4 are to help you plan out your points, where your points need to be, roadmap them out, if you will, for each of the 4 elite categories that I just talked about: SC, PSPV, CPV, and ATV. All right. The very bottom part is just to help you with your calculations. Not that we don't think that you can do it without that little guide down there, but it's just to kind of help you make sure that we're doing it accurately. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So I want to start with the very top one right now. So everyone kind of look at the category 1. Okay. And again, we want to be on the blank side right now. All right. The other side, again, has got all the instructions, so that if you get off this call and you kind of forgot what I said, you can just follow literally step by step on the front side. It'll help you walk you through this. But go to the blank side for me. So our first category here is now our elite SC points, or success club points. And as you can see, right, we've got a maximum and a minimum allowed. And really, again, just to remind you, you get elite SC points from coaches from 2016 and 2017 this year that you personally sponsored that reach Success Club. All right. And those points double because you're also going to be in Success Club as well. So again, so we look at the goal guide here and we say, okay, well, look at my current situation. I think right now that I'll probably have one coach from last year who's building, who I think will get into Success Club in January. Okay. And I'm also going to be in Success Club. So if I have one coach and I'm also going to be in Success Club, that 1 point is doubled to 2, right? So you'd write one coach in the top box, and then you say it's going to double. So my total elite SC points for this month would be 2. And now let's say, okay, here we are in February. Now you should already, because we're done with January, you could probably already be filling this box out like right now. All right. Now we're going to go into January or to February. Okay, this is Cup month. I've got a coach who came on in January. I've still got my active leader from last month. And you know what? One of my other leaders, my other coaches from last year, is kind of re-engaging and got on a cup team and has committed to make Success Club as well. So I think this month I'm going to have 3 coaches in Success Club, okay, from 2016 to 2017. Now I'm also going to be in Success Club, which would mean that I anticipate that I'm going to have 6 of these elite SC points by the end of the month. All right. And so then what you do is you kind of look at it. Okay, well, next month, here's what my plan is. You know, maybe I don't have as much people coming in because there's not Team Cup months. And you look through, okay, I know that this is coming up, or I know, you know, I have a good month coming out of Summit. And again, the idea here isn't to overanalyze it, more than to kind of roadmap it for yourself. So you know about how many people I need to have, how many coaches I need to have in elite, so I can back into what my activity level needs to be. The goal is, as you go through this for the whole year, again, right now, you'll want to do that. The goal is to have at least, again, 50 points in that box. Because remember, there's a maximum of 50 points. So in this case, I had 62. I'd be like, okay, great. Now what that allows me to do is, as I go month after month, I can see, okay, well, and let's say in February, I only ended up having 2 coaches, right? That one that was getting reactivated didn't quite make Success Club. And so instead of having 6 points, I have 4 points. No big deal, right? So now if I need to, I can readjust my numbers to make sure that by the end of the year, I'm still at 50. And so it literally, as I go each and every month, I can see the path that I'm on and what I need to do, what I need to be maintaining in order to end the year with the right number of points to qualify for elite. Okay. We're going now into the second category. So go with the next step down on that guide. This is now our elite PSPV points, our coaches' personal volume. And remember, their PV is generated from their own purchases, plus the purchases that their retail and club customers make. So you want to just ask yourself, this one, honestly, you guys, this one's going to get a little bit, this is where it's going to start to push you a little bit, because you're going to want to have these concrete numbers, and you're going to be going, okay, well, how do I do this? Or how do I, you know, you're going to have a lot of questions. Let's just say that. So, and what I want you to do is just kind of take a breath for a second and think here. We're road mapping, right? We're trying to put some pieces in place for ourselves. So ask yourselves, how many new coaches will I enroll each month? Okay. Because if you think about it, since this just measures my 2017 coaches, that's an important thing for me to consider, right? Because when they enroll, they make a purchase, which generates PV. Okay. Plus, the more coaches that I have that I've enrolled, the more coaches I have the potential of helping other customers, whether I'm having them join challenge groups with me or do other things. And so the more people that I've got acquiring customers, the more PV that's generating for them, which means the more elite points that I'm getting. And in this case, that's one of the reasons why we say it's really important to focus on having a strong start to the year for this category. Because if the more people you have earlier on, the more coaches you have that are eligible to contribute to this throughout the entire year. It's really good compounding exercise, all right? So let's say I look in January and I say, okay, I think I'll have two coaches that are going to come in, right? And they're between their challenge pack purchases, and I think that they'll get maybe 1 customer or 2 customers, whatever it happens to be. And I did the math for simplicity here, right? Let's say I think they're going to have about 500 PSPV. All right. The easy way to do this, guys, is look, hey, if it's the all access challenge pack, you know how much PV is there, you know how much it's going to be. You can just kind of rough it out in your mind, right? If they're going to do that pack or the $160 challenge pack, you can estimate that. But let's say for the sake of this example, I think they're going to have about 500 PV. Okay, that would give me 1 elite point. Remember, because every increment is 1 point. Let's say the next month, I think I'll get 2 coaches again. Okay, my plan is to enroll 2 more coaches, and I'm estimating that those coaches will also bring in about 500 points. But remember, I still have those 2 previous coaches two coaches from January, from the previous month. So really, in February, there's 4 coaches that I've got contributing to that point total. And so let's say I think that those 2 coaches are going to have a couple customers get started. They're going to fulfill their own HD. And between all of that and the 2 new customers and what I think they'll do with their own customers that month, if any, I'm going to have about 1,000 PSPV points. That will give me 2 elite points for that month. And then you go through and you do that same exercise throughout the whole year. Now, one of the things that I think is really good on this one is this kind of starts to give you a benchmark, if you will, for the number of new coaches you want to try to be adding to your team. Business building coaches, not discount coaches, business building coaches to your team every single month. And then looking at kind of the production that you need them to, or hope that they'll be. So if they're a business building coach, for example, maybe it's a challenge pack, and then every month it's 2 to 3 customers. If that's my goal, I know about how much PV each one of those are going to be generating for me. And I can then, when I'm sitting down and talking with them, it's really about, okay, let's help you get into Success Club by helping 2 or 3 people every single month, depending on the challenge pack they get, right? And that kind of keeps me on pace for this number. Again, the goal here is by the time you add all up that we have at least 50 points. Okay, in this case, you can see I'm at 78 points. It's a lot of points, right? And so I did this again for the simplicity of the example, but you guys, hopefully you can see what I'm saying. All right. Okay. That's PSPV. Now, if we go into the new category, elite CPV, that should say CPV. It says CV. It should say CPV. It's a typo. Sorry, I just realized that as I'm looking at it. Now it really is, it's not coaches. Man, hold on, I gotta fix this. This is gonna drive me crazy. Let's do this. Okay, there we go. And sorry about that. This little detour is, oops. There we go. Okay, back on point now. So now this is all about customers. Again, we just talked about the PSPV for coaches. This is it's the exact same math, but just applied to my own personal customers and the purchases they make, right? For every increment of 500 in PV that come from my own customers' purchases, I get 1 elite point. So let's say I'm gonna have 2 new customers in January, and they're gonna get this challenge pack and this challenge pack, or maybe it's this challenge pack and a Shakeology on HD or a performance piece or whatever it happens to be, right? You kind of look and you guys tend to, what your new customers tend to purchase, right? So you can estimate how much PV you think that would be. And let's say in January, you're looking back on it now and you're like, well, that's ends up at about 250 points. Well, okay, that's not an increment of 500, so there's no elite points earned in this category that month. Let's say I do 2 more in February, all right? And it's gonna generate about another 250 because again, I still have those 2 customers that are purchasing on HD and things in January. Now it's about 500 points. That would give me 1 elite point. And again, it's that same math, okay? So ask yourself that question. How many new customers am I gonna enroll each month? What challenge pack do they tend to purchase? How many of those people do I tend to retain on Shakeology HD every single month? And then estimate what those numbers are going to be. And if at the end you're reaching at least 25 points, I should say 25 points right there, then that's great. That's what you need to be pacing. One of the things I would encourage you is you build this out. Sometimes I see coaches as they complete the goal guide, they kind of build to the minimum points required. I would encourage you not to do that. I would encourage you to say, look, here's what I think I can do, and then just make sure that what you are planning on doing based on your business, based on what you're going to be doing, make sure that it is reaching those minimums. But man, if you can be at 70 points, 100 points, 200 points in any one of these categories, that's great. I don't want you to throttle down and go, oh, well, looks like I don't have to do that much because, boy, all I have to do is this and I can get those points. It's not about building your business to minimums. It's about building your business to maximums. That's how CEOs think on this. This is just designed to help you make sure that your projections are high enough to get you to where you want to be by the end of the year, all right? Now let's get to that 4th category down at the very bottom. Elite ATV. Now, before I get into this, this is what I'm going to say right now, all right? Especially for this group, I wouldn't really start worrying too much about ATV beyond just kind of knowing what your minimum number needs to be until summit-ish. Okay, and I'm sure in this group that you guys will talk about it as the time becomes appropriate. And the reason is because if you focus on those first 3 categories, that's really the best way to drive to this number that you need right here. Once we get later on in the year, we'll have enough of a track record to understand where your trends are, so that then if we need to make some adjustments to make sure we get the ATV number, we can, all right? And you'll still have enough time in the year to be able to do that. So I'm going to inform you about how this works, what this looks like, so you can calculate what your number needs to be as a minimum. But then I don't want you to really, again, spend too much time stressing about this number until a few months down the road in the year. So, all right. So for ATV, really all it measures is that it's that measurement from Gringo Inc. of my entire business, right? And it looks at the total team volume from the coaches that are in my 3 basic levels. So the people that my purchases, the coaches that I've sponsored, and their customers' purchases, their coaches and those customers' purchases, and etc. It goes down 3 little generations, if you will, your grandkids, your great grandkids, and your great great grandkids from a genealogy perspective. And all of you at the end of the year should have gotten an elite report number that had this ATV. If you didn't get that, just reach out to your sales team rep and they'll be able to find it for you. They'll get you what your end of the year ATV number is. But what you want to do is from that report or getting from the sales team, just put your whatever you ended the year at ATV in that first little box right there. That's where you ended. Now, remember, you get 1 point for every 10,000 points increase from one year to the next. So don't let these numbers intimidate you. This is a total point from the entire year. And so you know that, if I need to have, let's say at least 10 points, well, I know I need to have at least 140,000 to have increased by that 100,000 point requirement to get those points. So in this case, let's just say, hey, I think I'll get 200,000, whatever it happens to be. The math means I've increased by 160,000. I divide that by 10,000, and now I get to 16. The easiest way to do this to find the minimum, honestly, is to find your year-end total. Just add 100,000 points to it, and that will tell you where you need to be, all right? And again, that's the important thing with this right now, is just kind of knowing what that benchmark happens to be. So after you complete that goal guide, and it might take you a little bit of time to go through it, honestly, you guys, and it will be time well spent for you to go through that. That will kind of become your roadmap. Do yourself a favor and fill it out in pencil, but if you've already started writing on a pen, just have another blank copy, because you might need to tweak it at the end of Q1 or something like that, and that's fine. It's that roadmap. But now that you have that, it creates the framework really for your strategy, right? This acquisition, retention, expansion strategy. What it really will start to tell you is, for example, on the examples I just showed you, what that would tell me for my elite plan would be, well, I need to have at least 2 new coach enrollments every single month. I need to have at least 2 new customer signups every single month. I need to have about 2 to 3 Percy-sponsored coaches from 2016, 2017, and Success Club. And I need to have about 50% of my coaches from this year have at least 2 new customers in a challenge group every single month, all right? And then I need to retain about 60% or more of my coaches, all right? So how did I get all that information? I just looked at the goal guide, and I looked at the math that I did. I said, this is what this means. This is how I will hit these numbers. Might be the part, again, where you have to think like a CEO, and you have to challenge yourself. You have to own those numbers. Say, okay, this is what the basic framework that I'm looking at, this is what that means. Because once I have that plan, now the key question is, okay, so how do I execute to get this? And that's when we start saying, well, and those of you that know me will laugh, but what are the controllable actions, the things that I can control? What are the things that I can do right now to make these numbers happen, all right? How many new contacts do I need to make each day? How many invitations to challenge groups and coachings do I need to make? How many follow-ups do I need to make? How many challenge groups do I need to run? How many coach info sessions? All these questions that you start to ask yourself to reverse engineer into that number, all right? That now starts to really give you this monthly plan of attack that you need to put into place, that you can put into a calendar. And here's what I need to do, and here's my daily activities. And now the great thing about that is those daily activities now really have a clear connection to a bigger purpose of hitting elite for you. You can now see why I'm doing these things during my power hour, why I'm doing these things, why I'm shooting for these numbers. I know why I'm doing them, not just because my coach told me to, but because as a CEO of my business, I'm driving towards a specific goal. And I know, according to my plan, this is how I can get there. All right. So I know a lot of you on this call are probably really excited. Some of you are there. A lot of this was a review for some of you. But chances are there's a lot of you that as I put all those numbers out, and again, you're that guy at the very beginning with like smoke coming out of their head. And so I want to end on something to maybe give you a little bit of perspective on this. I started talking about at the beginning about really believing, right? Giving yourself permission to believe, giving yourself permission to be imperfect, giving yourself permission to go for it, right? To not let these things trip you up. And the funny thing is, when you put that slide up for the first time, it resonates with people. But then as I go through the presentation and kind of the work of what it's going to take to do this starts to distill on them, it gets like, oh my gosh, can I? Oh my gosh, should I? Oh, can I do this? Whatever. And I want to take just a second as we wrap here to make sure that we're in the right space. One of the funnest days that the sales team gets to do for Team Beachbody happens in January, when you get to call all the coaches who made elite. You get to congratulate them on reaching that milestone. And they're all amazing calls, but the ones you look forward to the most are really the ones who hit it for the very first time. And the ones that you pushed and had to believe maybe when others weren't, or they had to really challenge themselves. And you see in their face and you hear in their voice the sense of pride and joy and celebration of having reached a big goal and challenged themselves, and being able to take just a second and look back and going, man, I did it. I want you guys to all have that experience. I want you guys to all feel that for your business. And one of the things that's amazing that happens is when you do that, you bring success closer to your team, because now elite's not something that just happens to other people. Elite is now something that happened to them. It's their team. They can do that. And all of a sudden now they see, boy, if we did it here, I can do that with my team. You brought success closer to them. This is Katie Ledecky. Those of you that watch the Olympics, I'm kind of an Olympics junkie. And she was a phenomenal. I'd never heard of her before the Olympics this year, and I promise you, I track her now. I'm a fan. She's an amazing athlete. And this is what she said. She said, I got to move my little window here so I can read it. I would encourage you to set really high goals. Set goals that when you think of them, you think they're impossible. But then every day you can work towards them, and anything is possible. So keep working hard and follow your dreams. If you ever hear what she did, what Katie does to train, and how she prepares herself, it is a daily disciplined focus on key fundamental things that she practices. And she is a robot. She practices and works at these things over and over and over again, because she knows that to reach those big goals, okay, that's the everyday work that she has to put in. So I want you to think about that. I want you to understand there is purpose behind that. There's meaning behind it for you. And I know if you'll do that, if you have the discipline to do that, if you'll set aside some of those self-limiting beliefs, those doubts, those fears, maybe those little inner, self-sabotaging things that you do to kind of in your mind protect yourself from failure or letting people down. If you'll just stop that and just throw yourself into it and just go after it and not let things change your course, you guys are going to get there, and it's going to be a phenomenal experience for you this year. So that's all I've got. Let me stop sharing. Let me see if I can go back to the screen here. Stop sharing. Mel, I don't know if you're still there.
I'm here, but now it says I can't go on video.
Now you can't get off.
No.
You want me to put you as the presenter again?
Maybe. I don't know. You don't need to see my mugshot. We can leave it. We can just, you can be good. So anyways, awesome call. I took a ton of notes, and I was going through and just answering questions as you were talking. So I think that I got them all. Okay. If there were any other questions.
And sorry for the typos on the PowerPoint. I hope that didn't throw anyone for a loop.
No, I think you were good. I think you explained it wonderfully. The one thing too is just to take the time to go through and do this every single month. I don't know, Kim, if you see this too. It's like people tend to, if they have a bad month, they just stop tracking because they're like, oh, well, I don't really want to.
There it goes.
Yeah, there it goes. Or I don't necessarily want to face the fact that I had a bad month. I just want to pretend like it didn't happen, and I'll just ignore it, right? But and the biggest thing and the best thing about this group is that we're starting in January, February, essentially. And so, if you really do keep track of this and you challenge yourself and you go all in, you're going to be really surprised at what you can accomplish and how, just slight tweaks in your business month after month are actually going to really make this become a reality for you, and that each one of you can do this. So, so I think it's awesome training. I think you guys, go back and do some hands-on work with it, ask questions. That's what this group is for. So we'll kind of take this first month and dive in with our numbers together next week and help each other out. So that will be.
And the great thing is you guys already have a month of numbers that you can go in and put in the guide that will kind of help you do that. You've already got January's numbers now that you can add in there. So
absolutely. So January's numbers will come out. Like you will get an elite report. Is it next Friday that we'll get the first?
Yeah, it's usually the second week. So it'll be next week.
All right. So so next Friday we'll get our numbers, and then we'll go over them together as a group. So thank you, Kim.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Yes. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thanks everybody. I'll get this call recording posted and shared into the group, and we will see you guys later. Have a good day. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.